what I'm finding, Barbara, I'm just going to jump in because we've got you. What I'm finding is that the casting directors are not giving much notice for auditions now post-COVID. Literally, the last 3 I've had have been same day within a couple of hours. We were doing an interview with Candace Cruz last week, and she said for NBC LX, it was within hours to turn around, that she had to be live, ready to go. Are you seeing any of that as well?
I'm not on my side. I have not seen quite the same level of urgency. But I can understand. I mean, these are unprecedented times, as everybody knows, but it still bears repeating. So adaptability is a huge skill right now. But that's really, really interesting. I would say here it's still a little slower. The media in New York was hit hard by COVID, and just because of the economics. So, but I do know, like in my space, there's a lot of ramping up. I know a number of people who are producers who are starting to go around getting ready to go around the country again, starting to scout and do sizzles. And I know that there's all across the board, people are very focused on development so that the minute something goes, people are ready to hit the ground.
Yep. We've got so many great people on here. I want to just take a quick minute to say hi to Sean DeSimone, who jumped on, Stephen Seidel. Sean's on. Sean, I would have loved to do this all together, but I don't think you can have 3 people on an IG Live. But we are going to get him because he did agree to come in a couple of weeks. Next time, he says, we'll figure it out. Absolutely. And sometimes,
and Sean and I have a class coming up October 11th and 12th.
Is that the home shopping class that you normally do?
Yes. And it was so amazing the first time we did it this summer, because we've always wanted to, have always wanted to do it virtually, but just we couldn't quite figure it out. And then obviously circumstances made us do it, and it was fantastic.
What was it about it that you felt made it so fantastic?
You know what was different is because we were forced to do it virtually, it actually completely replicates the audition process in the home shopping space. Right? Because normally the class is in person and it's fun and we do a lot of technique. But truthfully, all casting, and specifically in that space, which Sean can speak to even better than I can, is the first thing you do, right, is you have to submit. So we walk people through the submission. Then we had everybody create their self-tape and gave notes, because everybody has a self-tape now.
Yeah.
And then the third was we replicated the Skype audition in the class, because everyone's doing it. And those are things that you normally never get notes on. You never understand what's the difference between, you know what I mean? Besides maybe reading an article about best practices. It was phenomenal.
I would love to have been a fly on the wall to see some of those notes. Was there any notes that you felt you were giving over and over that would be helpful for hosts to know, that you saw coming through?
Wow, that's a great question. I think consistently was actually sort of stopping and because a big part of my side and the coaching is the mindset, is stopping to actually be in the moment, to constantly remember this is the audition process, and getting the job and doing the job are 2 different things. So you have to stay present and understanding what's required of me now in order to move myself forward in the process. So to navigate the audition process is its own skill. And that's what we were so excited about. So I think that is a constant note, because until somebody's been through it, you don't understand what the process is. Even if you've done self-tapes before, this is a very specific universe. So a lot of our thing was helping people, one, to organize their thoughts, right, to stay focused, to understand, bring your value, and what do we need to hear, which might be different than what you think we need to hear, and then to really stay present in the process, to not to think that you're actually selling. Because the audition process is much more of a communication. It's much more conversation. We're trying to get to know you and trying to imagine what you would be like on air, and trying to see, do you have what we need to see in order to present you to the executive team.
Now, Barbara, you've created and helped launch the careers of so many stars. We had listed some of them. There's just too many to name. Everybody from Amy Schumer to Jeff Probst on Survivor, Wayne Brady of The Masked Singer, and so many more. And talking about this audition process, what is it when somebody comes through that makes you take that second look, where you're like, whoa, I need to take another look at this person?
That is one of my favorite things. It's somebody who lights up the room. Right? So that's someone who is, whether they're intentional or not, understands it's about presence much more than about technique. Because technique matters. I always want to stress that. But if you light up the room, And it's about energy and what you bring and generously sharing out, but it's that ability to just be like, you are on and present and exciting, then that propels you back. Because I can teach you how to read a teleprompter. It's much harder to teach you how to light up the room. So you're focused on being your best self and like just enjoying the process, as opposed to looking inward at being like getting it right, or I hope they like me. So, because I think about somebody like Adam Richman when I did Man versus Food. I mean, Adam was just amazing. Like, he lit up the room. I'd never met anybody who was just so freaking excited about, like, I don't know, eating Jamaican meat patties. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
He was just so delighted, and he was so excited to talk about this content. And that's where he's like, and so you want to feel that there's no place they'd rather be than right there with you, and they just couldn't get the information out fast enough. And he had none of the qualifications we were looking for that show at the time.
Wow. That's fascinating. And for those who don't know you, because I see so many people joining, I wish I could say hi to you guys. Thank you so much for everybody who's on. Thank you for all the waves, all the hearts. Barbara, you can probably see it's just going way too fast, you guys, for us to really.
I know, because I had to lean in and squint, but it's awesome.
Yeah, see, it's just constantly coming up with different people. And we are going to leave some time for questions for sure. So, Barbara, for those who have not been part of Host in LA, this year we exploded. This was our year. I mean, I know that it's been tough. There has been no work here in LA, just like in New York, but that didn't mean we couldn't prepare. It didn't mean, and that was why I wanted to start getting on camera, start doing these Zooms and IG Lives and giving people resources like you that normally we don't necessarily have the kind of access we have. What is it that you would suggest as far as being prepared right now and staying prepared?
This is really taking advantage of this time. I'm in the same way. It's like when I had a little bit of downtime, taking classes and learning other skills that I don't normally have time for. So really take advantage of that. So among the things I think about that it's often easy to forget, especially when you're newer and breaking in. So a big thing I recommend for people is to focus on stamina.
What do you mean by that?
Having the stamina to keep going. So what happens is when we tend to be new, right, you may be hired and you're doing quick digital hits. You do things for 90 seconds, shorter things, or or if you've been used to creating your own content, right? And these are short hits. So then for the jobs people aspire to, right, the bigger things, that's like hours of work. Do you know what I mean? So I remember years ago, what I'm trying to get is you want to be able to work yourself up so that you could do like 20 minutes of copy nonstop and maintain the same energy throughout. And that's something anybody can practice. Get a prompter app and start with, 30 seconds and 60 seconds, 90-second hits, which are really common. I mean, but if you're doing a lot of entertainment news across the board, those wind up being and a lot of news organizations work on a wheel where you're 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. You've got to be able to go for 20 minutes. And that's in the audition process. I first learned that, 10 or 15 years ago, prepping someone for HLN, and the copy was 20 minutes long. Right? And so, because when you think about talk shows, award shows, all those things that everybody says they want to do, but very few people have actually, when you're young, really think about the stamina that's required and to maintain that energy throughout and to be as excited and dynamic in the first hour as you are in hour 4 of covering red carpets, covering anything. So think about stamina. Another stamina test I actually often joke about is my dear friend Elizabeth Wagmeister, who I love and adore, who was a co-host on Page 6 TV and is a senior contributor at Variety. So, she was doing Variety and Page 6 at the same time. So she would fly to the West Coast to do live coverage of, red carpets, Oscars, Emmys, what have you, take a red eye back to New York and come straight to the studio and go on air, right? Go into makeup, go on air. Okay, that is everybody does it on the Today Show. Picture the job that everybody says they want to do. That is common. So I jokingly say, but not joking, that somebody should do that like on a weekend. Once we can again, right? Can I go somewhere and have a really great time? Like go have really great girlfriend getaway time. And I basically don't sleep, and then take a red eye home and go straight to work, and maybe put on my makeup in the bathroom at the airport. And if you feel awesome doing that, you're like, I could do that. I think that you could be a host at the highest level, because that is the amount of stamina that is required. Just think about it. People are traveling. Look about everybody covering politics right now. and this year the political season basically lasted for almost 4 years.
It is nonstop. It is no sleep. But I will say, having done it myself, there is so much rush of energy. I don't think you realize that you're in this, place where you haven't slept and you haven't taken a moment. And people still laugh at me because to this day, no matter when I go out that door, I've got a bag that's got food, it's got water, it's got flat shoes. Because as a journalist, you never know when you're coming back home, especially the kind of journalism I did, which is investigative crime reporting. I'm like, why are you got to kill each other at 2 a.m? Every single day? I was just getting ready to go home and go to bed, and now I'm going out again to work. So,
okay, how much do I love though that you have basically a hosting go bag? That is really, so that's another tip for people is to put together your hosting go bag. Figure out your colors,
so true.
makeup.
I love that.
That's something you could grab and go because when the call comes, you're like,
here it is, people. It's got literally what you just said. It's got my mask in it. It's got my makeup in it. It's got my sunglasses. There's usually an extra pair of panties in there. You guys, I love what you're saying, Barbara. Yeah, and I just learned to live like that. It just became normal. So I don't really, and then being in California, I just kept it as well because it's like, you never know when there might be an earthquake. And if it's in the middle of the night, I want my toothbrush. I got my toothbrush in there. Like I want to just be able to grab a bag and get out the door if need to. So living in California definitely reinforced it.
I am all for it. And I was going to show us from casting so many things for like Spike, Discovery, and History back in the day. I'm all for the go bag because I worked on so many of those kind of survival-y shows. But that is awesome. Another big point I was going to make especially for right now, is a really great time to look about cultivating relationships because it's a relationship-driven business. And while a lot of people aren't working or are working at, half tempo, it's a great time to be joining groups and be active, right? Show up generously, following key people, commenting, being on your LinkedIn, starting to strategically develop relationships, making contacts, all the different ways that we can be in touch with people virtually. Because again, I applaud everyone who works on their hard skills and their talent, which is really important, but that's only a part of the job. The relationship side, the networking, the connecting side is really important. Marketing yourself, pulling your materials together, developing, working on, other skills, thinking about, I have some downtime. Could I be better at production? Could I be better at writing? Could I be better at editing? Could I be better at storytelling? All of those things. But right now is a really great time to be working on relationships.
Barbara, and you're so good at that. And I have appreciated your support. You almost bring tears to my eyes, because I feel like from the day that we met, you've just shown up for this group. You've shown up for us. And I love what you're saying about showing up generously, because that is who you are. And that's what you have done for so many hosts. So we do just want to applaud that. And, everybody, you see the hearts. Danielle says, yes, she is. We've got totally agree from other people. So we don't take it for granted.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's something I really, really, first of all, I appreciate that. But also something that Bevy Smith has always said to me was, in her career it's really about, she doesn't even call it networking. She really calls it's connecting and developing relationships. Because one of the things, too, is to let go of the transactional sense that I'm meeting you because I want something. It's because
right.
It is a relationship business and you're planting seeds. And Sean and I can totally attest to this. You have no idea how much we talk amongst ourselves. So that it's like they were lovely, not right for our project, or our project went away, but I can recommend so and so. So you're constantly proactively showing up generously and connecting, but you realize it's noticed and it's generous. And so sometimes when you feel like it's not a no, look at it just as like it's a not now. It's the same thing when you're pitching, cold pitching yourself and feeling frustrated because you don't get necessarily an answer. Sometimes, especially in the casting side, we need to follow you. We want to see that you're consistent. You know this very well, right? So that's going to take a few times of either going to auditions a few times or, more, sending your materials, updating, the other thing too is be consistent in these groups. People who I've really started to, take note of and connect with people who show up and leave comments in the Host in LA group. Right?
Yeah.
People ask great questions. It's a great way. A number of people on my side of the aisle are in the group and you get noticed that way.
Absolutely. You guys, I can't even tell you, a lot of times the casting directors and the agents, they're not necessarily visible in our group, but they are there. That's why we have the love link. It's not so we have this rigid, oh, you can only promote there. It's because it makes it a lot easier for the casting directors if they have one link and they're just taking a look and seeing who's doing what. So there are reasons, there's methods to the madness. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Barbara. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how your journey in hosting just for a minute?
So many people, back in the day, it's something you just fall into. So I actually started the music business a long time ago in Los Angeles, which I loved. But it wasn't necessarily a great place for a girl back then. Do you know what I mean? It's still a very male-dominated field. So anyway, I fast forward, come to New York, and I combined my music experience was great, and I also had worked as an assistant in a talent agency. So that's how I landed at VH1, because I brought talent experience and music experience into TV, and it was just such a great fit for me. So eventually, it just evolved. I started as an associate producer, but I really saw an opportunity, which I'm a big believer for people to see opportunities and seize it. There was nobody doing everything was music, right? And there was nobody doing the non-music related talent. So I started doing the host searches. I did a lot of celebrity bookings. I did all these different things, and eventually I created, because it was such a great growth opportunity, created the talent development department. So when that was hiring the VJs, but also celebrities, comedians, everything for award shows, all the bajillion things that we did there. And it was such an amazing creative time. So we got a chance to do so much different programming that you would never get to do now. Because we did scripted, we made movies, we did animation. Anyway, and so we got to cast all of it, right? Wow. And the wardrobe department reported to me. So they were awesome. We did all those great award shows. So part of that too was working really closely with Jane Lipsitz, who was Magical Elves, and now she has her company with Dan Cutforth. And so did all the development. So we did the RuPaul show, the original RuPaul. We did Rock and Roll Jeopardy with Jeff Probst. That was the pop-up video era. All of those great shows. And then in 2001, when my babies were little, I went out on my own because it was really hard. I was traveling to LA every 4 to 6 weeks. Anyway, and that's when I just hung my shingle. And it was such a great time for cable because it was all about the hosts. And cable was exploding all over the place. So that's how, it was just starting the casting. Sean started working with me in 2002, 3, long time ago. So we started together on the first Queer Eye. So we did that together, the original Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and then did a bajillion shows after that. And then the coaching started to evolve because at some point I was doing Slime Across America for Nickelodeon, which was their summer, which was awesome. And they came back to me and said, okay, we love our hosts. We love the people you found. Can you teach them how to be on TV?
In part 2 of our interview, what is your superpower? How do you brand yourself? Barbara's going to give us some helpful advice that will take your career to the next level. I'm Shay Holland. Thanks for listening.